Okay, what's up, y'all? So Pluto is in retrograde right now. Shout out to everybody in the comment section too about the past videos. I haven't been able to get to the comments like I wanted to. I'm going to try to get to that as soon as possible after I finish up some writing and stuff. But Pluto, yeah, Pluto is going retrograde right now inside of the sign of Capricorn. And what made me think about this even more is I just did a blog post which you guys can check out. There's one at the Benjamin blog spot, and there's also one at the Stellar Guide on Gina Stewart, who recently did a photo shoot wearing retro 70s fashion, right? So yeah, that made me think about that generation and Pluto and seek to compare and contrast the two different generations. So Gina's from the Pluto and Virgo generation, and all of the rest of you who are part of that generation, which is from, that transit took place from 1957 to 1971. So they pretty much produced those babies, you know what I mean? And for them, right, during that, what that produced was there was transformations taking place inside of the workplace. So I know people talk about the golden era inside of the 50s. So that was when you can get a great job in whatever it is you wanted, like that dream house and stuff like that. You were able to get it, but moreover, you were able to afford it. As long as you stuck to the code and followed it to the letter, you were able to get those things, and then you get the Social Security check in the end, and you live happily ever after. American dream, right? So during this period, you know, there was changes being developed inside of the work environment that were paving the way for personal evolution. So it wasn't quite there just yet in the beginning of the 50s, but it was the way was being paved at that time. There was also the first I think the calculator was brought on the surface then, which made advancements, right? And there was the first transistor radio that came into play during this generation. Yeah, but mostly things that were industrial. There were changes in medicine. There was changes in agriculture. So you see more food production at this time. This is when the United States got real wealthy. It's pretty much what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And when you think about it, right, from the astrological perspective, because during these times you were taught like this, right? Or this is what they were taught. I wasn't alive, but I'm telling you what I know from history and stuff like that. And a few people that I spoke to that from that era, you know, they were raised like this. You come up, you go to school, you go through that third house period, right? Middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school. You grab your high school sweetheart, your high school honey. Y'all get hitched. Y'all get married. Y'all have children after. And then y'all jump right into the career space. And that's how it goes. You know what I'm saying? So there was the point that I'm making is there was no real time to have fun. You know what I'm saying? There was no real time to have fun with your children. You got to think about these parents that produce these children. They were at work all the time. You know what I'm saying? So it was like the TV was raising their children, sort of like what's going on now, except our generation and the generation after, it's like it's on steroids, because there was only like 13 channels back then. You know what I'm saying? Now there's 150 cable channels in the internet, so you do the math. But my point is, during this era, right, looking at it from the astrological wheel, you went third house, basic education, and in some instances, you were in the moms and pop stores at 10, 11 years old. I guess it wasn't illegal back then, you know what I'm saying? And you put your work in then with the parents and everything. But if not, you know, you went straight. If you didn't go to college, you got married and you went to that career, you know what I mean? In a lot of the instances, there were jobs beforehand, and, you know, the man and the woman might take that into consideration and then say, okay, yeah, I'm going to marry him because he's got a steady job, or whatever. But the real emphasis put on that period is that you were able to afford it. Like, if you wanted the house from the American dream and the car from the American dream, there would be a job there for you to support that, and the pay would support that as well. You could go buy your house with cash then and still have your job with some change left over to put in investments, to put in stocks and bonds if you chose to put in maturity assets to put inside of, just a whole bunch of different things to shower your children with, right? Because that was a big thing about that period as well, is that the parents, just because they didn't have the time, they kind of replaced that with showering the children with gifts, right? So another thing about that generation is they may have not spent time with their children and connected with their children on that level, but they were able to pass something down to their children, right? Or at least share it to the level where it was felt. It was heartfelt at that extent. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that everybody got prosperity from that era as well. You know what I'm saying? So those who did not follow the code or follow the letter to the T, or some people who weren't even privy to do so, because this was also a time about human rights and stuff like that taking form, right? So with that being in play, people may have felt ostracized right inside of the community, if they did not play that code to the letter, if they were not in the know about it as well. So, and you would be able to identify that by not having, this was a clear line of distinction between the haves and the have-nots. You know what I mean? So here it is, you have astrologically, you jump into the 7th house, and then what do? You get married in the 7th house, and then you have children. Children represents 5. 5 houses from the 7th house lands you inside of the 11th house, right? So what that does is it takes everything that's associated with the 5th house and it drains it right out. Because you have no time to develop creative skills. Like some people the older people even frown on creativity now. Some, not saying all do, but think that it's not even relevant. Like music doesn't matter, or film doesn't matter and stuff like that, right? All that matters is industrial work that produces labor that builds something tangible, right? So they weren't able to tap into that vein because they skipped right through the loop. They went straight there, 7th house, have children, 5 houses later, you're in the 11th house, and that is the revenue house. That is the bring your dreams and wishes into fruition. So that generation was more built along the lines of, it's me, my girl, my wife, and our children, and we're going to stick this thing out all the way. The wheels aren't going to fall off. But if the wheels fall off, you're not going anywhere either. You know what I'm saying? So I'm speaking of all of the good things, but there was a lot of domestic abuse during this period as well. There was a lot of men feeling like, look, I'm the head, and whatever was passed down to them, you can't leave me. You can't leave these children, and in some instances, you will be barefoot and butt naked in my kitchen doing what I tell you to do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that going on. A lot of barbaric type stuff. And it's because, I'm the breadwinner. I bring the bacon home, so you listen to what I say. You know what I'm saying? Children included. You know what I mean? A lot of strict stuff going on back then. And if you look at this from a Capricornian perspective, from a 10th house view, this was pretty brilliant, because you might say, okay, if they started off in the 7th house with the contractual agreement, and you could look at arranged marriages in this type of way too, right? But they're so young. They get married, they have the kids, they jump straight to 11th house, right? You may say, well, where's the 10th house? The 10th house got to be somewhere, right? And the 10th house played a clever role in this because, of course, they were there. They preceded the 11th house. So it's like, okay, we're going to make these long-lasting jobs for y'all. We're going to make it like damn near permanent. Like, these people held jobs for years. You understand what I'm saying? And I can say that the Capricornian structure did a good job at doing that. At the same time, it positioned corporations and government included to do things subtly on a global level because they had their nation on lock. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, I know my people, this percent of my people are working every day from this hour to that hour, and none of them are breaking this code because they're getting money, they got these houses, they got these cars, and they're not going to give that up for anybody. They having their children, they putting their kids through college and stuff like that. No one's giving up that dream. So they were pretty brilliant when it came to that. In the process, as I stated though, the way was being paved for personal evolution. You know what I mean? For personal evolution. And another reason why I think there was part of this awakening is because although Pluto was inside of Virgo, and despite how much men wanted to be in roles that were like very domesticating, the sign is Virgo, which is a sign of service. So it's like if you stifle service, there will be some type of interruption or some type of stifling of personal development. You know what I mean? So let's say a woman wanted to work and you're not letting your wife work. Like, that's going against the universal law of personal power being exercised in a sign that represents service. You get what I'm saying? So you can understand where a lot of this come from. No, you can't go to work. You my wife and stuff like that. Well, you know, come to find out, right? So, okay, so be it. So now we get to the Pluto and Libra generation, which existed from 1971 to 1984, which produced me and a lot of other people like me, right? And we're more revolutionary. We are more about global justice and standing up for the rights of global justice. So we're more involved with globalism than before. So remember, I stated, like, you know, I think a war took place during that Pluto and Virgo generation too. I think it was the Vietnam War. Don't quote me on that, but I know a large theme was there must be peace and harmony at home in the USA, but there's like war going on overseas or whatever the case may be. So that kind of like also paved the way. As I said, subtly, the states were making their way across the world. But now with us and our generation, it's like, okay, we're really going to put some emphasis on that. Now, of course, I said up to 1984, right? But you got to understand, we're still alive. So we are still possessing that position natally, the same as the people in Pluto Virgo generation are possessing, right? We still possess that, despite where Pluto is now. You know what I'm saying? We still have that in our natural attributes. So it is embedded in us to support relationships, because it's in a sign of Libra. We seek for things to be balanced and harmonious in our relationships. Now, when you think about it, changes in marriage arrangements also occur during this transformation, during this transition. You understand what I'm talking about? So lo and behold, and the reason why I'm making this video, because I want to ask, because Pluto in retrograde is a time for reflection and to see if you are healing. It's a time to heal too, because Pluto's about healing and transformation and personal power. So I'm actually reflecting to see if I'm healing, if I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? I want you to do the same thing. I want you to ask yourself, are you okay? But I'm going to break it down. I'm going to finish breaking it down, right? Because, you know, we can put ourselves in these situations where we seek to balance things, especially when it comes to women, right? Because the first thing I looked at, it was like, man, I've seen myself being outed from the corporate structure, if you will, because of my own personal beliefs and my own personal power. You know what I mean? And at first, I know I didn't feel justified in that. I'm thinking that I'm batshit crazy for behaving the way that I was during this time, because I'm living by a code that was passed down to me. You understand what I'm talking about? Like, the predecessors didn't teach me astrology. You know what I'm saying? They taught, and not only me, but a lot of us that I grew up with, like, this is how you're supposed to do it. They was trying to teach us that same code that the Pluto and Virgo generation was living by, was brought up by. And that wasn't what we were supposed to be doing, come to find out. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, they wasn't sitting us down and teaching us like, yo, this is what is meant for y'all because y'all are this generation. Nah, it was just like, yo, you need to do this, you do this. So now I reflect on that, and some of that makes me like, oh man, because I know people expected something of me. You know what I mean? And I don't give a fuck, but I'm trying to be nice at the same time. You know what I'm saying? I care about the people. You know what I'm saying? But when knowledge is power, but it's also anguish. You know what I'm saying? So when you come to the realization of what it is that you're supposed to be and what people expect of you, you got to choose you at the end. You know what I'm saying? So again, you know, people might have been like, oh, I was a captain in the war. Boy, you're going to be a captain. You're going to be a sergeant. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm a doctor. You're going to be a doctor. You heard about a lot of that, but it's just like, nah, man. Like, but just think about it for myself and all those others who went with that because we wanted to, you know, we didn't want to defy our parents and our grandparents, aunts and uncles and stuff. So we kind of went with the flow of that. And for those of us that it did not work for, we like, yo, is there something wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? When in all actuality, we're the generation of personal power. And not only that, we're supposed to be making deals with people that benefits both sides. Now, see, the Pluto and Virgo generation, corporate took care of that for them. They had it planned to the T very well. Like, look, you guys are going to do well. You are going to be prosperous. Just follow these rules and regulations, and I promise you it'll happen. And that's the American dream. That's what you hear about the 50s being the golden era. But with us, Not so. With us, you can't really afford. Look, there's certain industries that you can get into and you will do well. We even kind of got it narrowed down to what those industries are, right? I'm talking about economy right now. So we know what those industries are. Those are the type of industries that you can go pay cash for the house. And that's even a slight maybe, depending on what your lifestyle is apart from that. You might say, oh, no, I'll be a renter. I'll have more change left over. You know what I mean? But apart from that, most people got mortgages and they rent and stuff. You know what I'm saying? If you outside of these specific industries, if you're not in Silicon Valley or you're not on Wall Street or you're not an engineer or a technician in some type of way, you're not getting that kind of money. Straight up. And this is not to put anyone down, and you don't have to frown at this and be like, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know my business. Yes, I do. So stop playing with me. You know what I'm saying? You not being, my point is this, you may be getting paid the money, it may look like it on paper but you got to think about this, inflation, right? The dollar is not worth the same as it was before, but the prices are like this now. And the prices before, like I said, you could go buy a house cash before and you was straight and have a Cadillac, a long one, like, oh, word. No, you're not doing that right now. You need something in your cousin's name, in your girlfriend's name, something else in your other girlfriend's name. Yeah, stop playing with me. But again, this is not to put anybody down. But this is the reality and the logistics of it. When you look at our generation, we are the generation that makes sure that things are supposed to be reciprocal or balanced between each other. This is not a corporate type thing. You know what I'm saying? Virgo is a service industry. And I think that's why I went more well. Right? Virgo, the sign of Virgo is all about service. The sign of Libra, on the other hand, is actually built on contracting. So when they had it mapped out so that corporate would take care of everybody, corporate kind of fell on us, on our generation, to take care of ourselves on a personal level. And, you know, some people wake up to things sooner than others. You know what I'm saying? So you may even see a lot of drug dealers that took entrepreneurship on their own hands. Like, yo, look, I can't be doing this whole go to work. Like, they want me to sweep the concrete for like $5 an hour. I can't, like, this is, what am I wasting away? I can't do this for 10 hours a day, 5 days. I can't do this. It's not worth it. It's not adding up. You know what I'm saying? Probably make more trading baseball cards. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not giving a pass to drug dealers. I'm just stating, like, this is where the fifth house comes in. This is where entrepreneurship came in. And this is a large part of what the Pluto and Libra generation is about as well, because in order for you to make those types of deals that pertain to Libra, you have to have some type of entrepreneurship about yourself, because it's about you, right? So the fifth house is about individuality. The sun rules it, right? Individual characteristics. And instead of just utilizing it for children like the Pluto and Virgo generation did, we set out to utilize all of it, you know? So that's creativity, that's creation. You know, they might want to say music ain't worth nothing, film ain't worth nothing. We beg to differ. We're in those industries and we're trying to produce it as much as we possibly can, despite age and all of that. And, you know, just trying to figure out how to form a business. Look how many people are working for themselves now, and especially women, right? Because also with our Pluto and Libra generation was divorce things were changed around. Pluto and Libra generation also, you know, all of the rights weren't given to women though. You know what I mean? So this is another thing that I reflect on and I look at it and I say, man, am I okay? Because I can recall, like I said, you know, the morals that were instilled in us or tried to be, you know, follow that old code. And doing that, there was a lot of camaraderie. There was a lot of brotherhood that was part of the instillment. You know what I'm saying? Take care of your brothers. Always look out for each other. You know, walk to school together, walk back from school with each other. You know, protect each other. Y'all they try to jump y'all and stuff like that. You know what I mean? We came up like that. And sometimes when you look at it now, you can see the separation is evident. You know what I'm saying? Of people doing their own thing. And in some instances, it's not evident. And you can sometimes see this when you like partner up with your peoples. You decide to go out with each other, and you know one of your peoples might dump their personal issues on you. You know what I'm saying? Domestic issues on you, or whatever the case may be. And if you sit back and you analyze it and you notice stuff, because again, knowledge is power, but it's also anguish. You know what I'm saying? If you hear this stuff, you're like, man, I feel you, bro. You know what I'm saying? And then you understand what I'm talking about as far as Pluto and Libra and Pluto and Virgo and all that goes to. And you're like, man, he or she is still living by the code that was instilled in us. You know what I'm saying? And this is why they're experiencing this to this level. You know what I mean? And it might make you sad. You know what I'm saying? You might be a water sign. You might be absorbing all of that, and then you go home with all of it on you, and you're like, oh, man. and you feel terrible now, you might not even be living that life. You may have took up the whole and accepted and embraced the whole Pluto and Libra generation thing and doing your own thing, but then it makes you, if you're reflecting right now, right, Pluto retrograde, you might think about those people, man. You know what I mean? And this is brought to my attention too, because last night I was speaking with my friend on the phone, and she was like, you ever dated a Scorpio? You ever dated a Pisces? And I'm thinking, and I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, I miss them chicks. You know what I'm saying? So here I go reflecting, and you know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, you know what I'm saying? And it makes me think, like, because again, people will have expectations of you based upon what the prior code was. And if you participated in that prior code, they probably expected even more from you. So the questions may arise. Where have you been? What have you been up to? Right? Your older aunties and uncles, they may question you all the time. Well, what are you doing for money? Or what's your job? Where you work at? Or you work there? You ever thought about taking this class and this, that, and third? And it's just like, they just don't get it, right? They won't let it go. They don't know that was their generation and this is mine. Like, I'm all right, right? I'm cooling, right? Why I gotta be all of that? You know what I'm saying? But out of humbleness or respect, you might just leave it alone and let it brush over you. But when you get your own chance to reflect, it's a personal thing, right? So it's like, man, how do they, you know, and I don't give a fuck, you know what I'm saying? But to be nice, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, I do think about them because it's about, I care about my people. So I'll be like, man, they probably expect this, that, and the third from me. And they're not getting it. But they don't get it. They don't know. It's either they don't know what I know or they just don't tap into what I know. And if I'm observing them, if I were to be critical, but I don't ask them about them. Like, yo, are you still working there? You know what I'm saying? Or you ain't think to get a degree by now? Like, how long you going to be stuck in that position at the job? You think they'd love you by now? You should be CEO. Like, I don't do that to people. You know what I'm saying? But even if it's done to me, I don't do it to them. You know what I'm saying? But it still makes you, with retrograde, Pluto retrograde makes you think like, man, they got these expectations of me. I wonder if I'm breaking their heart. You know what I mean? But I'm okay, possibly because I'm asking myself these questions. So I want you to ask yourself these questions too. You know what I'm saying? How do you feel about this? Do a health check on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Do a personal assessment on yourself and ask yourself, are you okay with embracing your personal power to whatever level it may be? Because again, you know, if you're not welding bridges underwater, which is like what, $35 an hour and up, you know, you may not be balling to someone else's standard. You know what I'm saying? Granted, but are you okay with that? You know what I'm saying? Because again, people are going to be looking at you with expectations of a code from a generation that was before you. You know what I'm saying? And they may judge you on that and say, well, you're not relevant, or you're not as impactful as you could be, or, you know, stop rapping, you're never gonna make it, or, you know what I'm saying? Stop with handing me your mixtapes and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you feel, yo? How do you feel? If we look at the MGTOW movement, right? Because I want to talk about this because I want to also express how the Pluto and Virgo generation spilled over into the Pluto and Libra generation and how it can actually be beneficial. Because in my pondering, I'm asking myself, did I leave my homies? Did I lose my homies? Like, what happened? Like, why am I working with women so much? You know what I'm saying? And although the signs were all around me when I was a child, right? Women all around me when I was a child, right? But I got my crew, I got my little crew, and it's us. You know what I'm saying? So, but there were instances where my people would be like, yo, where you was at? Oh, well, I was at her house. I was at her house. Yo, what you always doing with her? You know what I'm saying? Blah. But, you know, we all grew up and grew apart and, you know, grabbed our little honeys, our little chicks, or whatever the case may be. I may play the field more than the average dude does, but, again, if you ask me, I think I'm living by my astrological nature. You know what I'm saying? But the MGTOW movement, which I'm a part of, and I'm not monk, you know what I'm saying? Because there's different levels to that MGTOW thing, but it just basically means that men are going their own way, right? And in that process, if someone or something happens to align with whatever it is that the man is going their own way about, then hey, get on board. We get on the same page, we build together, and we do our thing, right? And I think that's healthy when you think about the Pluto and Libra generation, because it's a time of the revolution for global justice to say we need equal relationships between the individual. not based upon a pinnacle of some sort, but mutual understanding and agreements between people, individuals, right? So the separation, of course, and the most challenging thing for a person to do, I can attest to, is separate. So during the separation, solidifying yourself in the separation, now you're an alone unit. Now you have mastered the planet of Pluto. You are by yourself, and now you're making deals, right? Just look around you. A lot of people are independent contractors right now. There's a lot of freelancers all over the place, and there's work for it. It may be more challenging, but so what? You are liberated to the point where you can actually make your own job. You can sell pens from Thailand on eBay in America, and that is a job, my friend, right? Just to make a small example. Entrepreneurships everywhere, including women. Now, remember what I said about the Pluto and Virgo generation, when there was domestic violence, a lot of domestic abuse there, and Pluto and Libra generation, this is when the divorce laws came into play and all that. I said, okay, well, listen, these chicks need to be able to make their own decisions. These chicks need to be able to take care of themselves. These chicks need to not be under the rule of a significant other, their lover, or in some instances, anybody, right? They didn't fully get all of their rights, though, but they got some. And this is what I mean about their generation spilling over to ours. So when I made the transition to say, well, you know what, I'm just going to deal with women. Like, I'm going to work with women. I'm going to manage women and stuff like that. Even as a MGTOW man, you know what I'm saying? Because I think that's what MGTOW, unbeknownst, is really made for. To be able to separate yourself as an individual, to be able to say, if you see a woman, whether she's struggling or she's successful, you can be able to say, well, I like what you're doing. I want to help if I can. Or, you know what I'm saying? Maybe she likes what you're doing and she wants to help if she can. Now you have the ability to do so. And sure, there's going to be instances where husbands and wives and girlfriends and all that stuff may come into play. But when you really think about it, to the astrological point of Pluto being where it was when you were born, and where Pluto is in right now, which I'm about to get to, then you will make the connection. And I look and I reflect and I say, well, you know what? I'm all right. I'm okay. I may not be hanging out with the homeboys every day, but I feel gratified in what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, there's huge feminist movement. So you got MGTOW over here. You got feminists over there, too. So some feminists may look at me and be like, yo, we don't need you to help women do anything. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I get the whole, you sound like a chauvinist, or you sound like a pimp, or you sound like this, that, and the third. All right, I get it. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, I'm just like, yo, astrologically, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? They probably haven't totally figured out yet either that they're feminists and they are separating from men and stuff because they're exercising Pluto as well. Personal power, transformation, healing. They're coming out of generation after generation of women beating and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Still going through it. But when you look at it astrologically, they're really not supposed to be going through it. You know what I'm saying? But again, it takes longer for others to be awakened to what is happening in the universe than it does for others. You know what I'm saying? So, not beating anybody up here. I'm just shedding some light on the situation, you know, and stating that, you know, if you are MGTOW and you come across this video, just think about this. You know what I'm saying? I know you might be fed up. You're like, I'm not doing nothing for no woman. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even stating that. I'm saying if you position yourself powerfully enough on yourself, then you probably won't second guess and think about it so hard when it comes to doing something with or for a woman, especially if you're contracting with them. Because if you're from my generation, if you're from the Pluto and Libra generation, now just think about it again. We got older women who are making transformations that are unprecedented. You know, they're still in the game. They're modeling and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Gina Stewart's a perfect example, the hottest grandmother in the world. At 48, doing what she's doing, like, this was not something that was done back. If it was done back then, they would frown upon it. You know what I mean? They would fry a chick for trying to do something like that in that prior generation. You know what I mean? She'd be ostracized from the community. She'd be called like a Jezebel or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Again, though, look how that spills over into our generation where the divorce laws started being put into play and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Get your personal power on. So now that they've reached that pinnacle, they've reached that place in their lives where they can actually benefit from the things that took place in our generation, where are we at? as men and as women. You know what I'm saying? I be seeing it though. I be seeing like I think women got it on track better than men do. You know what I'm saying? It's probably because of ego and stuff. The sun is involved with guys more. But I see a lot of women, you know, sharing each other or, you know, helping each other out and stuff like that, supporting one another. And a lot of them are just independent. You know what I'm saying? Going for what they know. You know what I'm saying? So I think the MGTOW revolution can tap into that vein if they want, without thinking about pumping and dumping all the time. But, you know, I'm not here to push a lifestyle on you. You know what I'm saying? Do what you believe is right. But I am here to shed some light on the information of Pluto inside of your generation, especially because Pluto is inside of Capricorn right now. So if you're still trying to push the rhetoric of the generations related to Pluto before us, you just might want to slow down a bit. Or if someone is showing you resistance to that, or they telling you, look, I'm doing my own thing, like, yo, just chill, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm not you, you know what I'm saying? Think about this for a minute, because Pluto has been shaking things up in Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of that structure that helped the Pluto and Virgo generation so much. So it's really not in the favor of Pluto and Libra generation to get so heavily involved in mega corporations and corporations with 1,000 people and over and all that. Now again, you know, I'm just putting the information out there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to put you down if you're a part of that machine. You know what I'm saying? But just think about this if you know people who are not. And think about, you know, don't look at the person. Grab your ephemeris and find out where the planets are right now. Learn what Pluto inside of Capricorn means. All right? And then you make your own assessment. You know what I'm saying? Don't think I'm personalizing it with you or personalizing it with me because you see me speaking about it. All right, so, but I do want to know, like, have you thought about this? Are you thinking about it now? Will you think about this now? Have you felt any of this? Does it resonate with you? And what generation is your Pluto from? You know what I mean? What do you know about it? How does it apply to Pluto being in Capricorn right now? Those are the things I want to chat about. All right, I'm out.